This week, we have the car that's redefining expectations for full-size sedans while setting new standards for value. I'm Tom Baker, and this rather Aston Martin-looking saloon behind me is the 2015 Hyundai Genesis. That's right, despite having just one Hyundai badge on this 5-metre-long sedan, this Genesis is from the same manufacturer as the i30 and the Santa Fe. But don't imagine this is a Korean car of days gone by, chock full of features but no quality or refinement. Quite to the contrary, the Genesis is an extraordinary achievement both on paper and behind the wheel.
The Genesis may be a new introduction for Australia, but this is actually the second generation car. The classic lines channel S-Class and XJ, and what the Genesis lacks in cachet, it makes up for in generous features, supreme comfort, and genuine quality. After you close the heavy doors and step inside the Genesis, it's immediately clear that Hyundai had the Mercedes E-Class and BMW 5 Series firmly in its sights. This in here is the result of Hyundai's massive investment in research and development, and it's unbelievable that just 15 years ago, this brand was building the Hyundai Excel. But anyway, we can safely say that sitting in the Genesis is a nice place to be. Even the $60,000 base model is generously equipped, with all cars getting this 9-inch touchscreen including navigation and a 17-speaker surround sound audio system, as well as leather, although this $72,000 sensory mid-range model and the $80,000 ultimate flagship get nicer quality hide and under-thigh support that only increases the comfort factor even more. The car's infotainment systems are easy to use through this touchscreen, which is actually easier to input a sat-nav destination or establish a Bluetooth connection than the Germans with their rotary dials. And everything in here is soft touch and feels great. There's no harsh materials that we tentatively thought might exist in the Genesis. Does this feel like a car that you can get for not much more than $60,000, escaping luxury car tax? Absolutely not. The 5-metre length of the Genesis means a very accommodating rear, making long-distance cruising most comfortable. That's something that's going to make the Genesis very popular as a hire car, given the Holden Caprice is going out of production in just a couple of years, but it will please private buyers too. At 6'0", I'm absolutely swallowed up by the headroom and the amazing amounts of legroom, even sitting behind myself. And on the nicer Genesis models, the rear seat passengers can even control the infotainment back here, and the passenger sitting here can slide that seat forward and backwards using buttons right here. In any large car with family or fleet aspirations, a big boot is very important, and at 493 litres, the Genesis is just 4 short of the Holden Calais. Those back seats don't fold though, so you have to satisfy yourself with this pass-through right here. However, in all Genesis models, if you stand by the boot for just a few seconds, it will open automatically for you, though there's no foot waving in this car. Alright, well, we'll start with the engine, and in Australia the Genesis just gets one motor, and it's the 3.8 litre V6, producing 232 kilowatts of power and 397 newton meters of torque. Now, the only issue with that engine is the fuel economy, with a published figure of 11.2 litres per 100 kilometres. That translates in the real world to about 13. That makes the Genesis one of the less efficient members of its class. The Holden V6 is about 20% more efficient, and of course the Germans have turbochargers to achieve significantly better numbers. But fuel aside, the V6 is pretty much totally suited to the Genesis. It's a large and lazy engine that's just totally untroubled by the car's 2-ton weight, and it puts its power to the rear wheels only through a really excellent 8-speed automatic. In fact, it's a transmission that is so fluent that it obviously punches towards the ZF 8-speed auto that's pretty much the benchmark in this class. It is using cars like the BMW 5 Series. And the only area that the transmission actually struggles is where the gradient just changes a bit. On smaller hills, it can hunt just a tad, but in regular driving conditions, this does feel alarmingly close to something like a Mercedes E-Class. Now, handling, that's an area where BMW don't need to feel too worried, because the 5 Series still completely outclasses the Genesis on a mountain road. But in town, it's actually fine. Does it feel its size? Does it feel like a 5-metre long car? Well, not really. Most of the time it wraps around you and feels fairly nimble. Parking, yep, that's a chore. But the middle car and the flagship both come with an around view monitor in the center screen, which does make things a lot easier. Sure, it doesn't love swift direction changes, but they're not really the point, because the Genesis is a motorway cruiser. It loves the open road, and that's where that V6 feels more at home than anywhere else. The refinement levels are actually unbelievable for a Hyundai. The noise suppression is all there, there's a quality audio system, there's comfortable seats, all of which add up to make long distance cruising really, really easy in this car. It's a safe car as well, and commendably Hyundai have fitted active cruise control to every single model in the Genesis range. But what have Hyundai really done here? Well, they've created a very convincing entrant into the luxury car segment at a great price. And with that, we are suitably impressed. And that's really what the Genesis comes down to. A comfortable cruiser with luxurious features at a deeply competitive price. It proves Hyundai is moving on up. But not only that, the Genesis is a thoroughly good and recommendable car.